It's the favorite part of your Friday, Scenes from the Spectrum, episode 11. The NBA draft happened last night, and we're here to talk about it.
Here's Ilyasova. Here's McConnell. Can he get it off? Yeah! And the Sixers win it! 7 seconds to play. Iverson against Gill. The crowd on its feet. Allen for the win!
Yes. Oh, I miss that beautiful voice of his. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to episode 11 of Scenes from the Spectrum. Now, we have a lot going on today. Draft last night. Let's run through our headlines. Hit that music, Tony. Love that music.
Oh, it's the best music on podcast platforms across the world.
The 76ers traded pick number 3 and Danny Green for DeAnthony Melton of the Grizzlies. Matisse Thybulle still on the trade block. But we don't have enough money to get Eric Gordon because we shipped Danny Green away. Tobias, Korkmaz, Melton, Thybulle are still on the trading block. We're going to give a rundown of DeAnthony Melton. We signed an undrafted free agent, Julian Champagne, to a two-way deal. We're going to go through the lottery, some notable trades, and give our picks for the Sixers free agency. Also, I want to give a special shout-out to Mr. Ala Abdenabi. It is his birthday today. He is 54 years old. Happy birthday, Allah. Got some many good years to come on TV. And a Sixer legend, JJ Redick, is 38 years old today. Shout out JJ Redick, and I miss him. Graham, how are we doing today?
I'm good, Justin. How are you? You got good, nice rest after the shenanigans of last night.
Great night's rest.
It was good. Yeah, feeling good, man. Busy days ahead. And tell you, wow, Daryl Morey. He had something up his sleeve. He got creative, and I applaud him for that.
Absolutely. It wasn't a player I was expecting, but it was a player worth receiving. I really respect the trade here. Obviously, going to miss Danny Green, but his career is probably over.
Yeah, let's just give a quick farewell to Danny, Mr. 3 Rings. He came in at a point, and you look at from what he came to the Sixers with, it was right after the bubble of 2020, and he was with the Lakers. He won the championship, but during that stretch of runs, he was just getting absolutely flamed. His family was receiving death threats, the whole 9 yards from Lakers fans. And he came into Philadelphia and he did what he had to do for the team. He was a very solid player, both ends of the court. So with Danny able to do that, and not only to mention who he was traded for, we got him getting rid of Al Horford, which made him a double bonus. So for Danny, for all that he received from Lakers fans, not performing great in the bubble, and then coming and pretty much getting rid of Al Horford in the process, made Danny Green a special player. And he had great charisma. I feel like he was liked within the fan base, and he had his fair share to say about the Philadelphia sports fans. And even then, we felt like he was the guy.
Yeah, I was always a huge fan of Danny. I love the way he could just come in and be a streaky player and kind of save your entire team. And that's what he did, especially a few times in this past year's playoffs. I mean, he got us out of some really tough situations, hitting an absurd amount of threes in a few games. But, I'm really excited for the player that we received in DeAnthony Melton. And for people that don't really know much about DeAnthony Melton, let's get into this. He's a very solid two-way player. He has a very good wingspan. He's very disruptive in the passing lanes. He's a very above average rebounder for his positions. He shot 40% on catch and shoot threes this past year. So, he's got that lights out shooting like Danny Green had. Some things he needs to work on going forward. One, his ball handling. Grizzlies fans will know about this, but every time he's got the ball and he's dribbling down the court, you get a little afraid. So
He's like Furkan Korkmaz in that
yeah,
sense.
yeah, he's like Ferg trying to play point guard, but he needs to
Hey,
work on that. And
respect point Furk.
and another one of his weaknesses, as the calendar hits April, his numbers seem to go down a lot. And I know he's going into his third year now, but gotta work on that, gotta stay consistent and work on his weaknesses. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think DeAnthony Melton, if he can play his role and he can play well, he is going to be a phenomenal piece for the Sixers, especially off the bench when you see who's going to be running the bench unit, which free agency later on with trades are going to more solidify his role. But I think that he fits the Sixers very well. And there's a lot of guys in the pool who's on the trading block, who's in free agency that could fit in the system for the Sixers and what their need is. But you look at Melton, a low risk guy. He's young, he's not injury prone, and he's got that fight in him, that intangible that the Sixers are desperately looking for. And yeah, you can go Eric Gordon, you can go all the guys down the line that could shoot and play a little defense and drive to the rim. But when you look at the amount of risk involved, I think DeAnthony Melton was the most bang for your buck right here for Daryl Morey, and that's why he made the move. And yeah, I think that getting rid of Danny to a degree, I don't know what the Grizzlies are going to do with that. But maybe he's on the team PR. Who knows? I'm kidding. But I think that I think that DeAnthony Melton, for what his role should be for him, not to dribble the ball too much, to be a catch and shoot guy, maybe feed off Embiid's gravity. I think that'll be him, and he'll play really well in that type of role. And you look at what you mentioned about April. You got to look at the team that he was playing for, like Memphis. When you're a guard and you've got players like John Morant and Dylan Brooks on your team that are going to take majority of the shots, your numbers are going to go down. You're not going to get the rhythm looks that you were used to getting in the flow of the regular season. So when you have him being a 6th or 7th man and with Embiid and his gravity, I feel like he's just a picture perfect fit at this point.
Yeah, I think he'll really fit well, especially with the guards that we have on our team. He's kind of that perfect fit that we want coming off the bench. Can be really streaky at sometimes, but you need a guy with some fire. You like some of the players in the Sixers said, you need a dog. And that's what I said on Twitter a few times last night, that DeAnthony Melton is an absolute dog. And I'm really excited to see what he brings. He's very young. He's younger than Matisse Thybulle, I think 1 or 2 years younger than him.
Yeah.
Speaking of Matisse Thybulle, yesterday there were some reports that Matisse was going to be shipped off to either Houston or Portland, and we would receive Eric Gordon, kind of a 3-team trade there, but that fell through, and the Eric Gordon dream has kind of diminished, because in that trade we would have sent Danny Green away as to match cap, because he was $10 million on the books this year. So with sending Danny Green away, it would be almost impossible to trade for Eric Gordon without giving up Tobias Harris. And obviously you wouldn't give up Tobias Harris for Eric Gordon. So Graham, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but let's hear it.
Yeah, I think that Eric Gordon, like I said, he fit the Sixers, but the risk of his age, injury, and a $20 million contract, I think that, it could have worked, no doubt about it. But I do think Melton was the better option for the Sixers at their current time. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Tobias could get traded, and maybe you see Eric Gordon fill in there. But I would look to see like a 3-team trade where you get Eric Gordon and then somebody else to pair alongside that, so you get 2 players for the price of 1 with Tobias, especially, which is it's going to have to happen if you trade Tobias, because if you look at his contract, the salaries do have to match. So maybe there is a chance get Gordon. I'd say that's like a 2% chance. It's very, very unlikely at this point. It seems like If Matisse is gone, Tobias is pretty much going to stay because nobody just wants to willingly just take on Tobias by himself as the main trade piece. It's not like we have a plethora of picks or young guys to package along with Tobias to make him more enticing. So I feel like Matisse right now at the docket is probably the number one move that needs to be made rather than somebody like Tobias. But again, going back to with the rumors, everything, it seemed like Eric Gordon was going to be a done deal. But I applaud Daryl Morey because he had something up his sleeve. He got creative. He didn't go back to the old Houston Rocket days and just doing what made him feel comfortable and what James Harden feel comfortable because he's playing with guys he's already played with. And even PJ Tucker, if we can get PJ Tucker for less than what was reported, I would be very happy. I don't think that we can necessarily afford 3 for $30 at this point, but I still think that if you can get him maybe $6-7 million a year over across 2-3 years, that you can make that move for the Sixers.
Yeah, and we'll kind of get into our kind of dream picks for our free agency later in the episode, but Tobias, Korkmaz, Melton, Thibault, all being shopped. I do think Tobias is going to stay. I do believe that Matisse will still be shipped off. Just got to find the right partner for him. The Trailblazers were looking for a straight-up player swap for Matisse Thybulle. A name that I like. It's a pipe dream now, but Josh Hart, but that's probably not going to happen. So kind of what are your thoughts, Graham? Where do we go from here? Is it still worth shipping off Furk, Shake Milton, Matisse, or even Tobias?
Look, when you look at the roster, you got to ship off guys that just don't fit the ideology of what we're trying to bring here, which is tough, hard-nosed basketball. So even if Furkan hypothetically would fit for the Sixers, I still think you could get a better option with somebody down the line that is more athletic, faster, better defense. He's not going to turn the ball over as much. I still think that you just have to get as many as athletic, fast players that don't have trouble rebounding and can still knock down shots. You just got to find a niche of players in this either trade pool or free agency pool, because we can make our list of how many players we think could fit, how many players we should go after. But when you look at what Daryl Morey has done, he always seems to sort of surprise us in a way. And he's never really made, quote, a wrong decision. He's been patient, more than we could ever imagine with Ben Simmons. And now I feel like with Matisse Thybulle, he's being extremely patient, waiting for, the right deal, because he's made it known that he's not going to trade anybody for less than their value. And we saw that yesterday with the draft pick and with Danny Green. And when I feel like we got the more value out of that, when you especially look at, we're a contending team and we got something that could fit alongside not just Joel Embiid, but James Harden. In the previous years, we've had, who can fit with Joel? Who can do this? Maybe Furkan does fit with Joel. But does Furkan fit with Joel and James? And that I don't see him fitting with Joel and James. Does Shake fit with Joel and James? Maybe, but there could be a better option. That's the thing that Daryl Morey now is working on, is that who can not only fit with Joel Embiid, who can fit with James Harden, and why I think that there's going to be a number of moves that he makes that are going to be like, wow, I didn't see that coming. And that's what I like about this offseason, that there's a lot of times where we'll be like, yeah, we're going to go after that guy. That guy's going to go there. We're not going to have enough money for him. It's really none of that. There's so many options on the table, which makes this extremely fun.
Yeah, and I have to agree with most of the things you said. It's kind of all about fit and who fits the most. We haven't seen it out of Furk yet. We've rarely seen it out of Shake. Obviously, you don't see it in Matisse Thybulle. And Tobias Harris just does not and will not work with Joel Embiid. He's done everything he can to make it work, and he's been doing a good job at it, but in reality, it's not a good fit with Tobias and Embiid. So my thoughts are, I would like to ship out Furk and Matisse, maybe even Shake, even though we have Shake on a really cheap deal. I wouldn't mind him off for another solid role player that can spice things up for the Sixers team. But moving on to keeping going with the draft last night, the Sixers did sign an undrafted free agent out of St. John's. His name is Julian Champagne. I think I'm saying it right, but for those of you who do not know who that is, he's a 6'7" small forward from St. John's. He averaged 19 points per game and 6 rebounds per game on 45, 31, and 75 shooting splits. He's a good off-ball player. He can catch and shoot at a high level, makes good decisions with the ball. He's a great rebounder and a good help defender. I believe he's going to be very good for the Blue Coats and maybe even get some time with the Sixers as he's on a two-way deal. Graham, do you know anything about this guy? Any thoughts?
I don't know, it might be, what is it? Julian Champagne, maybe?
Champagne.
I don't know.
It looks like it's Champagne.
It looks like Champagne. It looks like I literally have no clue, but I do know he's 6'8". So
6'8". Okay, I thought I said 6'7". Okay.
Yeah, it says listed height 6'8" for me.
Okay.
And he's from like Staten Island. I know that much. Went to St. John, so he's a local kid. Just a little bit further south of Philadelphia and about 40 minutes down to Delaware. So I think that he's just gonna have to find his home. And the Blue Coats, I mean, he's going into a great situation there. That's a winning culture.
The super team of the Blue Coats.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna be thrusted in some winning style of basketball, which I think is gonna be good for him. He's coming from a storied program, St. John's. I mean, he's gonna have some fun down in Delaware. And there's a small chance that he brings a lot of production to the Sixers within the next 2-3 years. But I feel like he's a certain guy that can really be like a prospect coming up through the minor leagues, almost what it seems like with Jaden Springer. Jaden Springer's still 19. We feel like he's like a AA player, like he's in the minor leagues, which is fun. And I think this could be another one of those guys.
Yeah, I really like this pickup. Local kid coming to his local team. He can really shake things up for this Blue Coats team and maybe even get some time on the NBA court. Let the man shine. He can really catch and shoot the ball. He does it with good efficiency. But so the draft yesterday, especially the lottery, couple picks where I was like, whoa, I didn't expect him to go there. I'll name 2 right away with Paolo Banchero going 1. And then the Sacramento Kings passing on Jaden Ivey and letting him go to Detroit. And man, let me tell you, Cade Cunningham and Caden Ivey backcourt is going to be very fun to watch. So, Graham, any major topics you want to talk about from the draft last night, or mostly even the lottery part of it?
Well, I think that the Pistons won the draft, like you
Absolutely.
said. Not only just Ivy, they did a number of things that I feel like are really going to propel them. And you look at the potential of DeAndre Ayton being there in that front court, which that's really exciting. And you look, Jaden Ivey for the Kings. There were reports that he didn't have any medicals, didn't work out for them. So that's interesting for Sacramento to have, obviously somebody as Ivy's stature. Of course, they couldn't come to some sort of pre-draft agreement, which was weird. But Banchero being one was, somewhat of a surprise until about like 20 minutes before the draft. And, all we had heard is Jabari Smith Jr., being number 1. And then you look at Banchero 20 minutes before the draft. The Magic were working some stealth, pre-draft, nobody's going to know what they do, which is kind of weird because there was also reports that Banchero never worked out for the Magic.
Which is weird because you usually see the top 5 work out for the number 1 team.
So I'm not sure like what type of stealth you're trying to use when you're the number 1 overall pick. I mean, you feel like you should just make that known about 2 weeks before the draft. Mm-hmm. But I felt that not necessarily surprising. I just thought it was really weird how it was pretty much set in stone. Smith, Holmgren, Banchero, 1, 2, 3, and then 20 minutes before the draft, everything's changed, and you got Woj on TV telling you that don't be shocked if Banchero goes first overall. So that was weird. I like Shane Sharp down there with the Blazers. Johnny
I
Davis.
think he's a beautiful pickup.
Johnny Davis down to the Wizards, and you look at down further down the draft. Eason, drafted by the Rockets, Dalen Terry by the Bulls. I didn't mind that. And then we find our guy, Nikola Jovic, down. What was he? Pick number 27 of the Heat.
I went to the Heat. Yeah. So an interesting thing to look forward with Detroit is, they've been rumored to have interest in DeAndre Ayton, giving him the max contract. But last night at the draft, they did trade for Jalen Duren, the center out of Memphis. So do you think they're going in a different direction here, or from DeAndre Ayton, or do you think they're still going to pursue him?
I think they have nothing to lose in anything they do because they have an enormous amount of cap space. So there is, many different avenues. They're obviously still a rebuilding team. But there is a chance they could sneak in, be a 7th, 8th seed in the East if things go their way.
I feel like overnight they've turned into the brightest future in the league.
Oh yeah, I mean when you have Kate Cunningham, the options are endless, and you add Ivy to that backcourt, you're just that's scary. That's speed, right? That's like the new age of basketball. When you have these type of unicorn type of players, where they just jump off the page with everything they do. And I like what Ivy's done, with John Morant, someone that I think that he could turn into somewhat of that type of player. And then Cade Cunningham, obviously the potential being, one of the best players in the league in a couple of years. So I think that when you have them two as your cornerstone, you can work around so many different ways, whether it's Isaiah Stewart, Duran, and you look at the potential of Ayton, and then there's so many other options. Maybe they want shooting, and they can go and get some stretch fives and some stretch fours because there's so many
they
of
have
those.
Money.
Yeah,
They
have so many things they can do. Build. Maybe they want depth, and they go out for, I don't know who, like a Cody Martin or somebody. Like they just fill out their roster. I think there's so many different ways, and I don't think Ayton's off the table by any stretch of the imagination when you look at how much money they have to spend.
Yeah, and I personally think that out of this draft, Jaden Ivey is going to be the best player, and I've felt this for a while because I really like his game at Purdue. But I'm never been excited to watch any Pistons games in my lifetime, but moving forward, I will be. I'm really excited to see that backcourt, and I really want to see Duren play for this team. It's really going to be interesting.
I like Dyson Daniels, a guy from the G League Ignite. I think that the G League Ignite is going to become more or less a powerhouse in the draft coming up.
Absolutely.
You see more and more players every year do it. Of course, you had Jalen Green in last year's draft headlining the Ignite. And I think that they've got a really good thing going on. You look at Beauchamp that got drafted. He's a guy that pre-draft, I was looking at the Sixers. Maybe he can come in and fill that role as a guard and be productive. So I think that the G League Ignite is becoming, something that is going to be just, with like NBA draft talent, it's going to be top notch up there with Kansas and Duke when you look at the broad picture of 5-10 years.
Now, if I had to ask you who is the steal of the draft, who would you say?
It's tough to say because you want to say Ivy, right? I mean, but you get Ivy at 5. That's, he could be a number 1 on next year's draft, because that's not looking like it's going to be, the best over. So I feel like you get a number 1 overall talent at 5, which is never, ever going to be a loss. You also look at the Rockets. Jabari Smith was going to be the number 1 overall pick, and you get him at 3. So, maybe it's not 5-1, 3-1, but I think those are 2 you look at. But I tell you, someone that I think could be very, very good. And yes, he kind of went, where he was supposed to. It's not like this person fell. You look at Ochai Agbaji from Kansas. He's old. He had 4 years at college, and he won national championship. He goes to the Cavs at a very interesting, situation with their guard play with Colin Sexton. I think he will work well with Darius Garland. You get somebody that's just, a winner.
Yeah, and if I had to give somebody the steal of the draft besides Jaden Ivey, I would have to go with a second-round pick. Somebody who I wanted the Sixers to take at 23 if they didn't trade their pick. EJ Liddell dropped all the way to 41, which was probably the biggest surprise of this draft because he was expected to go, mid to late first round. So that was a huge surprise, and I think the Pelicans got a great pickup in EJ Liddell, and I like to describe him as an absolute dog.
Yeah, and I think that when players are supposed to be like, just outside of marginally being lottery, and they fall all the way down to second round, and it's not like early second round either. But I feel like then there's somewhat of a problem that we're not picking up on. Because
maybe players, a hidden injury concern.
Yeah, like we've seen players like drop down to like 25 or 26, but not 41 is a bit egregious. So I feel like there's something that we don't know about EJ Liddell. So that's something to keep an eye on. But again, I feel like going back to Ahmad Agbaji with the Cavs, you get someone that's ready to go in and be thrusted into NBA level competition. He was the best college player last year, a very good Kansas team. So it'd be interesting to see with the Cavs with the playoff push because they could sneak into a top 4 seed, I believe.
Yeah.
Year 2 Mobley's going to go crazy.
Absolutely. And how about 3 or 4 Duke players getting taken in the very first round, which is tied for a school high for them. I'm a big Duke fan. So.
Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, they're all going to have their guys in there. North Carolina will have a couple years, or they're going to have 3, 4, 5 guys in. No surprise there, but you could put the G League Ignite up there with the top guns in college.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I want to see, some exhibition games. Like, I want to see the Ignite play Duke on ESPN, 8 o'clock game, prime time. Let's make that a thing.
That'd be interesting. So Adrian Wojnarowski said that there was going to be a lot of trades on draft night, and man, that was a lie because there was barely. I mean, obviously there was take my pick, take this pick in the late second rounds, but nothing crazy except Kemba Walker going to Detroit, which he's going to be bought out. And the Sixers making the trade for D'Anthony Melton. I don't think there was anything else I missed.
Yeah, and I feel like the trades, when they happened, they were all like bunched together within 15 minutes. So it felt like there was a lot. There was nothing, and then there was like 3 or 4 trades in one little pocket of section between pick like 13 and 25, and then there was nothing until you get to those, second round, pick swaps and stuff. So I feel like, there was promised to be a lot more movement than there was. And I feel like teams were in a similar situation with what the Sixers were in when they have a player that they feel like they need to get off and trade to another team, but there just wasn't the value there. And you look at, there's a lot of teams that had Matisse Thybulle, and they were looking to trade, but the value wasn't there. And they're like, I'm going to hold on and just wait and see what we can get, 2 or 3 weeks down the line if we can get a better offer. I feel like there's a lot of teams out there like that.
Yeah. And I put this tweet out last night. If you guys aren't following, make sure to follow our podcast,
guys,
Twitter, and Instagram. Down there. We also are active on Instagram as well. Same at SFTS podcast _. But I put this tweet out last night. It said, Kemba Walker is being bought out by the Detroit Pistons. As a Sixer fan, would you sign Kemba Walker on a vet minimum as your backup point guard?
On a vet minimum, what exactly do you have to lose if you're the Sixers, right? I feel like Kemba still has something left in the tank. When he was at his last stint with Boston, he was always a Sixers killer. Maybe not, had the best season, but I feel like he always played well against the Sixers. And you go into New York, and I thought, wow, he could actually help that, be a mentor to someone like RJ, help out with Julius Randle and what they got going on. But he never got a chance. And I feel like he has a chip on his shoulder.
He showed flashes in New York. I
mean, when he did play, I feel like he was actually not terrible, but he never really got his foot in the door there. And for someone like Kemba, who feels like he has a lot more in the tank, he's playing with a chip on his shoulder because he feels like people have written him off. It's the perfect time to dive in and get someone like Kemba who feels like they have things to prove in this league and they're not finished yet. So when you can cash in on someone like that on a vet minimum, I don't feel like you have much to lose. Yes, Daryl, not necessarily his type to get someone like Kemba that's old and, not definitely past their prime. So it'll be, kind of out of there for Daryl to make that type of move when you look at what he's done for the Sixers and for Houston, not necessarily a move that he makes. But I feel like if it's there for the taking, you don't have better options. I think Kemba might be the way to go on a vet min.
Yeah, and the New York Knicks obviously trying to make a lot of moves, including pursuing Jalen Brunson, which I am a really big fan of Brunson.
I think everybody's a huge fan of Brunson.
Yeah.
But they're gonna give him like 29 mil.
Yeah, I do think the Knicks will overpay him.
Yeah,
but obviously go Brunson. I mean, I'm a big fan, so do your thing. But it was a fun night last night. I had a really good night. I think the Sixers did very well last night.
Yeah, I was pleased. I mean,
I was very pleased. It's not D'Anthony Melton is not a move I was expecting at all, but I'm very satisfied and happy with it. I'm really excited for it.
As someone that watches a lot of the Grizzlies, because I'm unashamed to say that Ja Morant is one of my favorite players in the league. Top
Absolutely.
3. I'm unashamed, no matter what Twitter tells you about him being corny. I love Ja Morant. I love the way he plays. I love his attitude towards the game. I love the way that he was raised playing with his dad in his driveway. I think that's awesome for someone like Ja Morant to be under-recruited and make his way to the NBA. Phenomenal story. I watched a lot of Grizzlies games. I've seen what D'Anthony Melton could do. I mean, man, when you look at when Ja Morant wasn't there for the Grizzlies, and we look at how many games they won without Ja, and you'd be like, is Ja really all that when they were like 24-6 without him, right? I don't know their actual win-loss record, but they were good without Ja. When you step into that guard role, D'Anthony Melton is a key piece in their success without Ja Morant, which is what I love. He's athletic. It's exactly what you need when you have an ISO guard like James Harden. And he can rebound, one of the worst rebounding teams last year because Joel Embiid does everything, and he can't also rebound. So I feel like you get that. You fill a lot of holes. It was a good draft night, but it makes it even better when you look at how worse it could have gone. Because there's a lot of teams you'd be like, well, D'Anthony Melton, we weren't really on our radar. Let's just not go for it and try and find someone like Eric Gordon and completely overpay for somebody that's injury prone. And Daryl didn't do that. He stuck to what he feels like is the best. Like I said, not just Joel, not just James, but them together, and that's why D'Anthony Melton's on the team right now.
Yeah, I'm very excited for him, and kind of moving on to free agency, which starts, I think, on the 29th.
I just got past the draft, man. I don't know when this producer Tony will let us know. I'm sure about
Tony,
it.
when you get a chance, can you look up when free agency starts and let us know? But there's a lot of options out there. I think this is a very solid free agent class. A lot of guys have not a lot of guys. A few guys have ties with the Sixers. I'll start with PJ Tucker, rumored to have mutual interest with the 76ers on a 3-year, $30 million, $10 million per year, which would take our entire mid-level exception, which would not leave us room for anything else. So PJ Tucker, thoughts? Yes, no. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I like PJ Tucker on the Sixers because he could just stand in the corner and knock down threes, rebound, play with a fight in him.
And be a dog on
and,
absolute
and,
defense.
and be a dog on defense. And you look at somebody that sits in the corner and shoot threes. That's someone that we need not only for our stars, but for Tobias Harris. So he could actually be around and roam and be like a small forward. Because we don't have anybody on our team that's really a small forward at the moment.
Yeah, we don't have a single small forward on the
so
roster.
That's an interesting aspect. If you could put PJ Tucker in at the 4 and let Toby play the 3, where he's not necessarily just sitting in the wing waiting for his shot, and he finally gets it and then pump fakes and then takes a contested mid range over 3 defenders. So he can actually just be himself and play. And maybe you see Toby get a little bit more run as a point forward with the bench unit, which is an interesting aspect that we saw somewhat of it. But I feel like if you could put Toby in a pick and roll situation as much as possible, and he has the ball in his hands, he can give you 20 points a game, maybe 17 points per game. But efficiency is going to be the biggest thing. But that's why I like PJ Tucker, because it's not like he doesn't fit, because he can fit with anybody. If you could sit in the corner, make threes, and play defense, you're going to be fitting with all 30 teams. So I think that's why I like PJ Tucker, but the price tag is my only gripe. I mean, he's going to be 40 years old, getting $10 million on the current rumor that it was 30 for 3. So, like I said, if you can get it 6 for 7, 2 or 3 years, I'm on board. But it's just, I'd like to think that Daryl could just trade him away if things don't go right. But even the more I think about it, it's just what Daryl did getting Melton was he's not taking risk. He's getting someone that he knows what production they're going to be, and that's why we didn't get Gordon. There's a lot of risk involved with PJ Tucker. I don't know if Daryl's comfortable with that.
Yeah, and I would have to agree. I think the price tag is a little large here, especially with him being 37 and he'll be 40 by the time his contract expires. But, talk about a dude who will out hustle every single player on the court, especially defensively, can knock down his corner threes, and just I love to say it, an absolute dog everywhere. He will outwork you, and he will make sure you know it, especially with trash talking on the court. He did that to us in the playoffs and got our fans riled up. But I like PJ Tucker. Price tag is a little big. Like you said, especially with that signing of D'Anthony Melton, who knows if he'll take that risk. But I wouldn't be mad if we signed him. I wouldn't be mad if we didn't. That's really all I have to say about PJ Tucker.
I'll say this one thing. PJ Tucker, the player, I mean, I love it. What he does, what he brings, his play style, not only that, the way he talks, the way he carries himself on the court, it just screams Philadelphia, right? Just being a dog, like you said, that's something we're missing. And he was handpicked by Joel Embiid in a post-game press conference. Like, it doesn't get more, Philly than that to me. So I think that PJ Tucker is a name they're going to monitor closely. And like I said, maybe Daryl's not comfortable taking risks. Maybe it's the other way. You took a low risk, and Melton, maybe go out and you give PJ Tucker a contract and hope he pans out. There's a lot of things and the thing about Daryl Morey is we never know what's happening with him. The only thing that we can promise is that players are going to be to their value, whether it's money or whether it's trade. And the problem with that is, yes, he can be his value for the first 2 years, but the third year, is he going to be worth $10 million? I just don't see it happening. I don't know if that's what is taking so long, because there's a report. I mean, he's still technically he hasn't opted out of Miami yet. So we don't even know if he's going to be available. So it's a possibility, but everything that we've seen, the Sixers are the front runners. If we eventually got PJ Tucker, I wouldn't be mad at it, because that means Daryl trusts him with the contract that he gives. And I trust Daryl's judgment at this time, but there's a lot of room to mess up still.
Yeah, and it's just there's so many options we could go with throughout the next few months, and kind of after free agency, it's going to be a little dead. But once free agency hits, it's going to be bang, bang, bang. So many signings happening. But
Tony, did we have the date of free agency?
According to this CBS article I'm looking at right now, the league hasn't announced an official date, but it's presumably going to be June 30th at 6 p.m.
It's usually at 6 p.m. Yeah, but
appreciate that, Tony. Thank you.
A guy who has had like interest in the Sixers before, a guy who took a veteran minimum to ring chase. Malik Monk is a guy I've had my eyes on for a while now, and I really like him. He's coming off his best year of his career in LA, so he doesn't have a problem with taking the vet minimum, but I expect him to want a bit more. Maybe he'll be a little more than the vet minimum, but what are your thoughts on potentially going after a guy like Malik Monk?
So this was on my target list, Malik Monk, and we could go back to this was August 2nd of 2021. Your boy Graham Simpson put out a tweet about Malik Monk. I mean, I am all about Malik Monk.
I've liked Malik Monk since college.
Yeah, he shot over 41% catch and shoot threes with Charlotte. He was 78th percentile in points per shot, points per spot up. I think that's big for the Sixers when you have someone that that can spot up, and he's underrated as a playmaker. My goodness, I mean, he can pass. Like he could actually like he could. He's someone you trust with the ball in their hands. He was 67th percentile potential assist, and he's 24, plenty of upside. I like Malik Monk as a potential Sixers target because he brings a sort of flair to a bench unit that we desperately need. Like we have a lot of dullness. We have a Furkan, we have a Shake. We just have guys. We need a Malik Monk that can pass, can shoot, can spot up, can play many different roles if you need him to. So I think that he was on my target list. I like Malik Monk a lot.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna go through my list now. So obviously PJ Tucker, Malik Monk, and another guy I was looking at is Dennis Schroeder, who I thought was going to be bought out. He got traded to the Rockets, if I remember correctly. But I wanted the Sixers to go after him. He didn't get bought out, but it feels like Dennis Schroeder is a guy who's become underrated. He's a nice guard who can give you something on the offensive end of the floor. But obviously with getting D'Anthony Melton, there's not much of a need for a guy like Dennis Schroeder, but I don't think there's a risk in signing him to a vet minimum, maybe a little more than that.
Going on the bit more pricey side of things, I like Gary Harris. Unrestricted free agent.
That was my next name. That was my next name.
He's not gonna be on the vet min for sure, but he's a good player, and I think that in the right situation, surrounded by James Harden, Joel Embiid, he could really thrive in Philadelphia. And he's been shopped around. He's been in Denver. He's been in Orlando. I feel like if he could find a home in Philadelphia and just find his role and be the player that he is, I mean, he's a good player. I mean, he was really good for the Nuggets when they were making their playoff run. So I like Gary Harris a lot, and I think that he would be good on the Sixers if we had the money for it, and if he was willing to take a team-friendly deal. I'm all on board for someone like Gary Harris.
Yeah, absolutely. I think his combination with D'Anthony Melton would be a good off-the-bench combination. Two very, very good shooters, and it would be a huge upgrade as far as bench offensive productivity goes. So that would be kind of a dream free agent choice. Now, let's bring in our producer Tony. Tony, I know you put up a list. What do you got for us? Put yourself on here.
All right. Few names that you guys already said. I had Gary Harris. I was a little on the pricier side. I don't even know if he might resign. I had Victor Oladipo. There were some reports he might take a mid-level exception type deal. He's probably the perfect player for the Sixers. Obviously athletic, very good defensively. Derek Jones Jr. Off injury, he should be pretty cheap. Then you got like Chris Boucher, stretch big, kills the Sixers routinely. So it would be nice to have him on our side for once. Nick Batum from the Clippers, I think he's still there. I'm pretty sure he's a free agent. He'd be nice, obviously veteran presence. And Amir Coffey, also from the Clippers.
Ooh,
Younger.
I like Amir Coffey.
He can shoot. He's got a strap. He can
I
play
like
defense.
Amir Coffey.
He's
Hold
fucking
up.
good. He's really good.
Hey, I'll tell you this. Amir Coffey, the best Twitter handle in all of the NBA. It's
What is
not even close. Hold on, I'll find it. So it's coffee shop _ is his Twitter.
That's
ad.
hard. That's hard.
That's hard. Like
I like that.
that might be the best Twitter ad in all of NBA basketball. I don't know if there's a better one than that. Coffee shop _ It's simple, to the point. You get it. It's associated with Amir Coffey. Just for that, I want him on the Sixers. I mean, that reason alone is enough for me. But yeah, I think there's a lot of guys that are potential. And like I said in the beginning of the show, Daryl Morey showed us yesterday that we can never predict his next move. And so even when you look at guys, like Oladipo, like the hell, but it's a possibility. There's so many guys out there. I'm going to put a name out there that I didn't mention earlier, like Delon Wright. Maybe a guy.
About him.
I mean, he's a solid player that could come in and just ball. And that just fills our needs of athletic guards that can play a little bit of defense, can shoot the ball. There's a lot. I feel like in the NBA, sorry, Tony, but that's a good problem to have. When you need athletic guards that can play a little bit of defense and shoot the ball, there's like 80 players to choose from. So I feel like that's a good problem to have in the NBA.
I had Otto Porter as well. Obviously not a guard. He's probably going to resign in Golden State, but you saw what he did in the finals. I mean, if you watched, he was knocked down. I used to be out on him, but it seems like he's turned his career around. And I
tell you, he might have some Wilt Chamberlain relatives in Philadelphia. If you know the Otto Porter and Chamberlain, they're lookalikes. But I think those are all good moves for the Sixers. I mean, you can't go wrong with anybody at this point if you can just play defense, be athletic, be fast, and shoot the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and moving on, somebody who I would like for us to kind of go after, but would probably take a bigger role with another team is Carmelo Anthony. He would be a solid spot off the bench. He's a good shooter, but I think he would take a like a bigger role with a different team. So I've always been a big fan of Carmelo. I don't know what your thoughts are. I don't know what that face was when I said Carmelo
I mean, I guess so. But here's the thing. I understand, but I look at that and I think for a second, and you gotta realize, wait, Philadelphia is a place where players want to play. Like, we have Joel Embiid and James Harden. Like, for the first time, you could actually be like, wait, these guys actually want to be in the city and play basketball for the Sixers. And so when you first say Carmelo Anthony, you're like, I mean, he was never like, actually, there's a good chance. I'm not totally on board with it. Maybe that's your 12th or 13th guy when you're filling out the roster.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of players that might shock you, because at the end of the day, Joel Embiid and James Harden on the same team. You want to be there. You want to play for that team.
Mm-hmm. You want to give your next pick, or are you all?
I don't have anybody else. Delon Wright was my next pick.
I have. All right. I had one last pick, and this would kind of be a risk. He's a very good shooter. He's coming off an injury, a big injury. He missed most of the year, and that would be Joe Ingles. Obviously, you're going to see a steep decline in his numbers, or his productivity, especially with the injury. But he can contribute to a winning team, and he's an elite shooter, and could be like kind of that secondary ball handler if you need be.
Oh, I mean, he's a great passer. Mm-hmm. I mean, he can really pass the basketball, which is why I like him. And if you could shoot and you can pass and be a playmaker as an added bonus, I'm all in on you. Look at Malik Monk, Joe Ingles. Yeah, he's coming off a gruesome injury. And that Jazz team, he was probably like the only likable player when they were making their playoff runs. So it's nice to kind of like Joe Ingles again now that he's not on the Jazz. But I think that he's a good fit. I don't know how much Matisse will be around, but from everything I've heard, him and Matisse are really good friends from being on the Australian national team. So maybe that's a bonus. Maybe Matisse starts to play better. Who knows? But I like Joe Ingles actually a lot. Now, I didn't even cross my mind when I was making my list. That's a really good adage because he's been under the radar because of the injury, and that's a big undertaking when you have somebody like Joe Ingles. But the back end of that is he never really relied on his athleticism at all. So if he could just go in and just still be able to have that same shooting stroke, that could be a really underrated pickup for not only the Sixers, but any team that goes after Joe Ingles. I feel like that could be huge.
Yeah, and I think he would cost a little more than the vet minimum.
Oh, of course. But, I mean, he's going to be a rotational player.
Yeah, but he wouldn't be too much money, especially coming off a season-ending injury. But is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you have left to say?
No Clemson players were drafted, but that's going to change once PJ Hall, Clemson Tiger legend, goes into the draft next year.
I was scrolling through Twitter one night during college basketball season, and what do I see? Did I see a Clemson player? I think did he clothesline somebody?
Oh, I was at that game. I know
you were at that game. But
Clemson Duke, yeah.
Did he clothesline somebody?
Yeah, he did. We don't talk about that around here. Yeah, that was on SportsCenter everywhere. That was nice. But I think that of course I watch every Clemson basketball game I have for a long time, and it's just we go and Clemson plays. And now that I write about them, it's somewhat of my job to watch them. So they play all these NBA level talent guys, and they can hold on for a quarter or a half. But it's just funny to see like how good like Banchero actually is up close in person. Because I got to see Duke. I got to see Keels play. AJ Griffin. Like I've seen Mark Williams. I've seen a lot of these guys play. That Duke
team was really good.
I mean, they're up close and personal. They're beasts. They're physical. They're really good. But PJ Hall for Clemson, who played all of last season injured, and he had like 20 points, 13 rebounds a game his last 13 games. He will be in the NBA draft next year, and he's going to be good.
First rounder? Second rounder?
Late first. He's on the older side. He's going to be a 3-year college player, but he's the modern NBA. Like he's like 6'10", can shoot the ball really well, can rebound, play.
Could be a really solid rotational player.
I think he is. Not necessarily up to Bam's speed on the playmaking side, but he makes up for it in shooting. So I think defensively he's going to be a beast because he's athletic, 6'10", mobile. But other than that, it's going to be to see. I'm just saying because I start my I guess you could say off-season stuff for Clemson basketball coming up for the website I write for, and my first task is a film review of PJ. So I'm just getting all my stuff together, and I tell you, NBA level talent if he puts everything together.
Yeah, well, we'll see you next year's draft. Thank you everybody for watching, for paying attention, for kind of lasting this long. This is a product of Philly Sports Today. Check them out on Twitter.
Shout out them. I hear they're good people over there.
Oh my God, I hear.
Yeah, I mean,
most wonderful
Tony,
people.
Tony, you hearing that? The good people down in Philly Sports Today. That's what I heard.
Oh yeah, they're phenomenal. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely great people.
They know the most amount of sports, and if you don't,
they're ball knowers over there.
Yeah. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure you check out our socials at SFTS Podcast _ on Twitter, also on Instagram. We're gonna start uploading to TikTok way more, and just follow, get our numbers up, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody.
Peace.